Good morning. It's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself, and I want to do a video on hopelessness. Okay, so for those of you who have chronic illness, chronic suffering, chronic disease, whether it's physical pain, you have physical symptoms, or you have mental, emotional, or any kind of anxiety, depression, things like this, this video is for you because I know that you have suffered feelings of hopelessness. And if you want more videos like this, please subscribe below, where I share more videos on how to become your own healer. Okay, hopelessness. We see no options left. We have tried, usually we have failed, and we have lost. And we look around, we're at the bottom, we look around, and we see no way out. This is the epitome of hopelessness. We feel helpless, we feel alone, we feel abandoned, we feel angry with ourselves and God and the rest of the world because we don't know how to solve this problem. It seems insurmountable. One of the worst parts about hopelessness is the feeling that it will never change. So this is really when people start to become suicidal, the pain becomes so great that they literally don't feel that they can endure it forever. And since they cannot find a way out, this is when people can commit suicide. And if you haven't seen my video on suicide and suicidal ideation, please go watch those, especially if this is how you're feeling. Hopelessness. Hopelessness is one of the lowest vibrational feelings and frequencies that we can have, simply because we are powerless. And when we're powerless, when we have given away all our personal power, it feels like there's nothing left for us. So one of the things, that I learned on my journey, the incredibly hard way, and unfortunately most people do have to learn this the hard way, is that hope is our most valuable tool going forward. We cannot move forward without hope. So we need to find ways to get back to a place where we can have hope. Even just a little bit of hope that there is a possible change for the future, that we can somehow overcome this, that there is an answer, right? That there is a way out of this jail cell. So when you're suffering with these chronic illnesses, whether they're mental or physical, I'm going to give you an analogy of somebody who's trapped in a prison camp. You are a prisoner. You are a prisoner, and you don't see any way out. Often when there is people like this, and of course if you have not read the book by Viktor Frankl, please check that out. I've done a review on that book, so go check out the video and please read the book. It inspires hope, because no matter what your circumstance, no matter how bad things are, no matter how dire they look, if we can find meaning in what's happening and hope for the future, for a liberation, then we can get through anything. So one of the things when I was going through this that I learned the hard way was not to ask, how long will this last? Am I ever going to heal? Will I ever be healed? Is it possible? Because your brain already thinks there isn't an answer. It is already searched. It is already doing the puzzle, the Rubik's Cube, all night, every day, trying desperately and failing to solve this problem, to get out of this pain and suffering that you're in. And your mind will answer no, because it thinks that it has exhausted all roads, all avenues. It's exhausted everything, and it literally does not see a way out. And that's why you've fallen into a state of hopelessness. So to not ask the question, will I heal? Will I ever heal? How long is this going to last, right? To not put a time frame on it is of super importance. Looking forward, future thinking, at this point, when we're catastrophizing, is one of the worst things that we can do. So if we can do future creation, where we're looking forward to a way out, to new dreams, to new goals, this is called hope. When we look forward to a future where all we see is the same suffering, the same darkness, we have complete hopelessness, because we don't think it's possible that we can bear this kind of weight and suffering and pain and whatever it is that you're going through forever, indefinitely. It's not humanly possible. So one of the things that, if you're not able to look forward to the future, and if you haven't checked out my videos on future creation, creating a new identity, creating your new future, please do that. But a lot of times when you're hopeless, this is not the time to try to look forward in any positive way, because your brain will not let you. It will say no. It is very strong at this point, trying to convince you that there is no way out, because it has done the work. It is looking. It has tried. It does not want to give up, and you do not want to give up. You do not want to be hopeless. You are looking for ways, in fact, to find a way out of this situation and experience that you find yourself in, and all you see are dead ends. All you see is that you are trapped. But if you knew the end date, okay, this is very important, and this is where people who have survived prison camps will tell you. If you knew the end date, and for me, when I was at my worst, my very worst, I would sob to my husband, you know, I was completely suicidal, and everything just looked so hopeless, and I would say, if I could only know an end date, if I could look into the future and know you'll have to do this for 2 years, 3 years, 10 years even, but there is an end date. If somebody could just guarantee me, then I could bear it. I could hold on. I could do it. You know, but not to know if there's an end date and when that end date is coming, it's so hard to have hope, right? So if you give yourself end dates, like I made this mistake, I will be healed by Christmas, I will be healed by my birthday, I will be healed by this date, right? It's New Year's. By New Year's next time, I will be healed. When you do that, and I know you're trying to be optimistic when you set out doing this, and then you get a very gung-ho, you try everything that you can, you really are intense about your diet and your protocols and your supplements and anything and everything that you could possibly do to heal yourself. And you're trying, and you do have hope, because you imagine this future, the same time next year where you will be healed. And then that date comes, and your liberation does not take place. I find these were the worst of moments, where you would fall into a hole, a deep hole, and say, what is the point? What's the point of trying? You see that that you've tried, you've done all these things, and you're in the exact same spot, and you feel hopeless. And this is a human emotion. This is one of the worst and deepest human emotion. It is below grief. It is below fear. It's below anger. It's at the bottom, right? When you are hopeless, you are at the bottom. You've given away all personal power. You don't see a way out, and you know that you cannot endure this. And so it requires some faith, right? Some persistence, some determination. It requires a deep reason for you to continue. You need a reason for somebody, for yourself, so that you may tell your story one day, for your children, for your family, for your parents, for somebody, for something. We must find this reason, and we must hold on to it in our hours of hopelessness. And I find when we are hopeless, we can do a few things. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you a few things that can help move us out of the state of hopelessness. We're not going to usually move from hopelessness to hope, but if we can start to climb towards neutrality, if we can start to, and if you haven't watched my video on the law of vibration, please go and do that. Some of the things that we can do are to, one, stop looking into the future, because if it's catastrophizing in any way, it is not a good place for you to be. So you need to bring it back, bring back the dates, cancel the end dates, cancel the looking forward, and just accept the now and say, what can I do for the next day to get through this, right? To make it a little easier for me to get through today. Sometimes we need to say, what can I do to get through the next hour? Sometimes, and when I was at my worst, it was like, what can I do to get through the next minute, the next second, the next millisecond, if it is that bad for you as it was for me at points. And so when we find these small shifts, right, just have a hot shower, drink a hot tea, lay down, go to sleep, watch something, distract yourself in some small way. Do something that can move you from complete hopelessness, up just a little bit, so we don't become completely overwhelmed and suicidal. Right? It's important that we find some hope. Sometimes I like to watch stories of hope, other people's struggles, hope, movies of hope, success stories. These are all great ways to remember that your season of hopelessness is just a season, that it will pass, that in its proper time, winter will turn into spring, all things die and renew. And no, I'm not talking about you. I am saying this feeling of hopelessness will pass, right? So sometimes we need to distract, a good movie, a good TV show, something funny, a conversation, stories of hope and healing, right? Teas, baths, showers, whatever it is, get involved with a conversation with some, just do anything that you can think of that makes you feel a little better and takes your mind off the intensity of what you're going through. Cry. When we get so overwhelmed with the hopelessness, and when we can, talk to somebody or write or journal, and when we allow that feeling and emotions being held down by the hopelessness to flow forward, we will feel usually a rush of grief, because it is the emotion up from hopelessness. And if we can get as high as grief, and I know grief seems like such a low vibration, and it is, but hopelessness is lower. So if you can climb up just even to grief, where you're allowing your feelings out of your body and you are crying and crying, you will feel a relief. The tears and the crying are meant to feel relief in the end. They help you to feel this sense of peace when you're through the crying. You'll feel tired. You will feel ready to go to sleep. And when you wake up, hopefully you will be able to begin anew, a little more refreshed, have a little more willpower to distract, and you can move forward with a new day, right? We can talk. Talking helps, because if we can feel connected to somebody else or to ourselves, or we can feel like somebody cares about us and somebody's willing to help us, this can be comforting. And this can be sometimes what you need when you're at the bottom. You need somebody else. So if your family does not understand, if your friends do not understand, they may not be the people to go to. You may have to go to a counselor, a therapist. You may have to go to support groups. I don't recommend staying in support groups for long, right? This is when you're at the bottom. This is when you need a little rise up. We don't want to stay at the bottom in these support groups or relying on these people forever, because we eventually want to rely on ourselves. We want to give ourselves self-love and self-hope, right? But for the time being, you may need therapists, support groups, online groups. You may need to listen to other people's journeys who are similar to your own, who can give you hope and can give you that confidence to keep going when you can't give it to yourself, right? So if you're desperate for somebody else to just share the burden for a little bit, to give you a little bit of external hope or connection or some reason, right? Just to hold you, just to hug you, just to feel there, This is incredibly important when we're hopeless, is to just get some support. It can be as simple as a hug or as extensive as therapy every day. A little support, just a little support from someone who can empathize and understand and care and just put their arms around you or their hearts around you and say, everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. And just give you a little bit of hope that you need in that moment to carry on to the next. Simply put, hopelessness is when you are trapped, when you feel trapped inside walls, inside almost like a prison, you're in a situation or an experience that feels intolerable and inescapable, too difficult to bear. This is when you get hopeless, when you're in a situation that you're trapped in, that you see no way out of. And when we see no way out of a situation that seems impossible to endure, you can fall deep, deep, deep into this feeling of hopelessness. And when you are there, give yourself a break. Please watch this video. Please remember that we can take it moment by moment. We can distract. We can remember not to think into the future and ask ourselves, when will this be over? When will this end? We can look at the now. We can say, what can I do today? What can I do right now to get through this? We can use tools to make us feel just a little bit better than we do right now. We can use our tears. We can cry. We can release some of those pent up feelings and emotions that need to flow forward. You can ask for support from a friend, a family member, a counselor. You can go to support groups online. You can watch other people's stories of hope and healing. People who have been through the same things as you and have come out the other side. And last but not least, you can remind yourself it won't always be this way. You can love yourself and you can remind yourself that every season has an end, that it will end, that seasons always come and go. Nothing ever stays the same. That is the nature of life. It will end. So hang on and remember, there is hope, there is healing. And I promise you, no matter how bad it looks right now, you can and will heal. You can do this. Keep going. You're worth it. And you are loved. I'll see you in the next video.